Hi, I'm Jean Nolte, editor at Fons & Porter.
And I'm Colleen Tauke. I'm the sewing specialist with Fons & Porter. In this tutorial, we're going to cover the construction of the 9-patch garden.
To get the pattern for this quilt, go to shopfonsandporter.com/quiltingquickly. Well, this is a fun quilt made with 2.5-inch strips of floral fabrics.
Exactly.
So what we're going to do to start with, you'll need 20 fabrics, 2 strips of each. So the first thing we're going to do is cut the pieces for one block, and I'm going to stack both of these strips, the matching strips, because it takes 2 strips to get the pieces for one block. So I get them stacked up. First thing I want to do is trim off the selvage.
Take off the selvage, get a nice fresh cut on the end, square it up.
And make sure you get all of it off. Don't be stingy. We
Some
got enough room.
selvages are wider than others, so make sure you get all of it.
And there's little holes in there too. You don't want those in your quilt. Okay, so after I get the end cleaned up, I'm going to have to turn these strips around so I can cut. So I'm going to cut A pieces, B pieces, and C pieces. So the A pieces are 2.5-inch squares. And we need 4 of those. Since we're cutting through 2 strips that are folded in half, we're going to get 4 at a time, so this is quick. So I put the 2.5-inch line there, cut. That's all the A pieces I'm going to need for one block.
A nice little tip to keep yourself organized is this little sticky dot and put your ABCs on there. It would be great if when we get done sewing or cutting that we could sit down and sew right away. But that's probably not reality. It's probably going to take a few times going back and forth and working on your quilt. And we want to make sure we remember where we're at and what pieces are which.
All right, so now I've just cut 4 B pieces at one time, and those are 6.5 inches long. And again, I'm going to label those. Now, I need C pieces that are 4.5 inches long, and I need 8 of these. So I have to do that twice.
And look at how efficiently it uses up the strip. All we have is just a little tip. Or
that's all the leftovers you'll have.
Not much waste in this quilt.
So I'm going to label those as C. Then your instructions will also tell you you need some 2.5-inch green squares and cream-colored squares
that are 2.5
for the rest of the block.
Exactly. Now, we talked about that this would be enough to make one block. Since you wouldn't want to use all of the same floral in one block, and we've cut all of these pieces, you will notice that in this block, A piece shows up in the very center, B shows up in ring 2 in this block, and letter C is in the outer ring of this block. Now for the construction.
All right, so here's what we would need. Here's all the pieces for one block. We've joined the centers already, and I'm going to move those out.
We've started rows for that 9-patch because a lot of us are really familiar with the 9-patch blocks, probably one of our first quilts.
So you would, first of all, join these into rows, and these are the cream background pieces that we talked about. You would join those rows and make your 9-patch.
Now we're going to add blocks to each side. We're going to kind of give you a visual of what you're going to be going about in your
basically
piecing.
You see that we have 3 different floral fabrics here, and then we have some cream background fabric and these little green squares, which I kind of think look like leaves to go with the flowers.
This is where you're going to want to mix and match your florals, put together ones that you enjoy, and make the colors kind of pop.
I think you would want to make all of your groups before you sewed any blocks together, so that you're sure you didn't end up with something that was the same in the last block. So you would plan before you start sewing.
Exactly.
All right, so the first thing that we said we were going to do was join this 9-patch and add those 2 things. So
this is what it will look like then when you've got your 9-patch constructed. You're going to put a bar on each side, press seam allowances to the outer edge.
So then you're ready to finish this row or round with the other 2 pieces that match, and we've added the green squares to the corners before we put them on the top and the bottom.
Remember, we pressed seam allowances out here. If you put your seam allowances towards the center on these, then you'll have opposing seams when you put the top and bottom row on.
Yep. So then we're going to add sides on here, and it will
Then
look
it will
like
this.
that.
Press as you go. A lot of people say, oh, it takes time to press, but your block will stay flat. Your end product will be a lot more acceptable to you probably if you press as you go.
The biggest thing to remember is always press toward these floral pieces.
Exactly.
You know, these seams go this way, these seams go that way. And then you'll have nice nesting seams when you go to put the block together.
Last two borders,
So when
rows
you've done that,
go on. You've
there's
created,
your finished block.
There you go, free 9-patch.
This is very
9-patch
simple
garden.
sewing. All squares and rectangles.
This is a time when you can work on that 1/4 inch seam. You can work on cutting accurately. It's a great beginner's quilt.
So you're ready to put this together. You need some vertical sashing strips and some horizontal sashing strips. You join the quilt together in rows.
And add your borders.
And you're done.
9-patch garden. Thanks for joining us today.
To see more of our videos, go to video.fonsandporter.com.